In 1993, the Super Nintendo edition of TMNT Tournament Fighters featured many characters from across the then-young Turtleverse. One of these characters was a mutated shark that immediately caught the attention and curiosity of the players. So what was the deal with the original version of this character, and does his creation predate the Archie Adventure series? Join me today as I explore the original Armaggon and how he came to be. The origins of Armaggon in the Archie universe are actually quite cryptic, given that we were never shown a flashback and learned the facts from Mr. Unreliable Narrator himself, Armaggon. Based on his exposition, we know that in the future, sharks evolved into highly intelligent beings, possibly as a result of the greenhouse effect raising the sea levels around the planet. Although Armaggon may have come from a very distant future of Earth, the furthest we can trace his origins is the year 2092. We're to believe that sharks in the future evolved to have arms, legs, and large brains, possibly giving them the ability to control other, less evolved sharks. However, given that Armaggon was the only mutated shark introduced in the series, it wouldn't be unreasonable to think that his mutation wasn't natural. And even if it was, it is unlikely that a mutation would give him missiles coming out from the shoulder mounts at the sides of his head. Whatever the origin of his mutation was, it gave him other abilities, or so he claimed. One of them was the ability to have multi-temporal thoughts. Unlike us, who view time as linear, Armaggon appears to be able to remember the future yet to come. There's not much explanation as to how this works, but this was probably Armaggon's biggest weakness, something I will revisit later. Apart from his enhanced strength and being 8 feet tall, Armaggon had other shark-like features, such as multiple rows of teeth. As a result of his evolution, Armaggon became very proud of himself, and perhaps because he could remember future events, Armaggon called himself the once and future king of the seas, something that put him at odds with Murdude. Whatever his origins really were, he crossed paths with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles because of one of Donatello's creations, the Time Slip Generator. It was explained that in the future of Earth, Donatello would resume his search for the second eye of Sarnath with the intention of studying time travel. The crystal would be the ideal compact power source he would need to make his time machine work. He managed to create time slips to send objects through time, but he soon realized that the crystals didn't come with infinite power, and a more efficient power source was needed. Knowing that the machine could only perform a few more trips, Donatello stored it and continued working on a second prototype. That first version was stolen by Armaggon. He then contacted another estranged ally of the Turtles gone mad, Manx, aka Verminator X. Manx, like Armaggon, was highly specialized in technology, and after hearing about the machine, he warned Armaggon that the power source had only a few trips left. Manx knew about the history of the Eyes of Sarnath, and he also knew where to find the first one, by taking it from the Shredder. Armaggon traveled back in time to put his hands on the crystal, but after finding some resistance, and given the limited time he had to cross the time slip, he decided to bring the Shredder into the future as well. Upon their arrival in the year 2092, the generator overloaded and the machine exploded. Having a power source without the machine was an inconvenience, but the trio now knew where to find another generator, at the Turtles building. It was during this new confrontation that they stole the second prototype. During their escape, Armaggon launched one of his missiles that almost killed the Turtles. As a result, Raph lost an eye, and the villains took Leo and Mikey as hostages. After studying the machine, Armaggon concluded that the problem with the first generator was that it didn't run with sufficient power. To ensure their goal of conquering Earth across time, Armaggon, Shredder, and Manx went on a quest to gather raw power across time. I'm unable to explain how all these objects powered the machine, but among these were the reprocessed nuclear fuel from Null's deep dump operation, the bones of the Roswell alien, the black stone of Mecha, and Hitler's brain. Now, if you're into fan-made projects, this would be the point where the Forever War story would spin off from. Be sure to check out that video. Armaggon went into our present to steal the nuclear fuel, but while he was there, he ran into Man Ray and Murdude. This resulted in a few fights that involved mind-controlled sharks. In the end, the mission was successful, and as Armaggon was returning to the future, he brought Murdude with him as well, leaving a perplexed Man Ray behind. Back in the future, the 2092 and the 1992 Turtles teamed up to rescue Leo, Mikey, and the Generator from Armaggon's headquarters. To gain an advantage, Armaggon used a powerful battle armor. While this proved to be a real threat, the Turtles destroyed the war machine and cornered the mutated shark. Armaggon, desperate, opened a time slip and took Leonardo hostage into the far future of Earth, to a time when humans were no longer present. The two Raphaels and future Donnie jumped through the time slip to rescue Leo, but as they crossed, one of Armaggon's missiles came out and destroyed the Generator's console. The Turtles found Armaggon and had him cornered once again. Armaggon pretended to have given up, but was secretly waiting for the right time to counterattack. After seeing through his deception, 1992 Raphael attacked him, accidentally throwing him down a waterfall. The Turtles assumed that was the end of Armaggon, and after getting rescued by the rest of the group, they left this period. Of course, Armaggon wasn't dead, but he was stranded in a world beyond repair. Using the technology left behind, he created a giant satellite to send a distress signal into space, hoping that someone would come to his rescue with technology he could steal. While cruising through time and space, two aliens known as Dundor and Grundle picked up the signal and landed on the planet. Unfortunately, these two aliens were not brave at all, and immediately started following Armaggon's orders, even when it didn't make any sense to do so. Armaggon was relieved that the ship had time-traveling technology, but was frustrated by its limited capabilities. It was designed to send robot probes into the time stream to observe other species and retrieve small artifacts or samples. Under Armaggon's orders, they modified a probe to give it speech capabilities and a powerful laser. They then sent it to 1993, where the device awakened Nauticus the Kraken from its 6,000-year confinement under the seabed. This giant creature's only purpose was to destroy every living thing on the planet, and it was a foolproof revenge plan for Armaggon, because it would eventually kill the Turtles and the Mutanimals. Thanks to Murdude's actions, this mission was a failure. Of course, there was no way for him to succeed at all, because, as the aliens later explained, they were sending the probe from the future of Earth, and therefore they couldn't really change their past. This is something that Armaggon should have been experienced enough to know by now, which makes me think that he wasn't as evolved as he claimed to be. In any case, Armaggon was able to create a time slip big enough to send him back to 1993 for 27 hours. Once there, he tried to get his revenge on Murdude and Man Ray, but his device was destroyed during the fight, and he ended up lost in time and space. In 1993, Armaggon was included as one of the playable characters for the Super Nintendo edition of TMNT Tournament Fighters, and its Japanese edition titled Mutant Warriors. Although the character's involvement with the tournament was unclear, his motivations were clear. He was planning to use the prize to fund his conquest of Earth. Among his special moves were the Aquashock water projectiles, the Fin Slicer, which was a leaping flash kick attack, and an ultimate move called Tsunami, which summoned a huge wave against the enemy. His home arena was a wrecked pirate ship with a giant squid in the background. This version of the character, background included, was the subject of a very delayed 2021 Loot Crate release. This was the only Tournament Fighters figure released by NECA so far. Armaggon appeared unofficially in the fan-made video game TMNT Rescue-Palooza in 2019, and as a background cameo in the official Shredder's Revenge DLC. But how the character was created is a whole other story. A mutated shark was one of the earliest character designs that Peter Laird created during his meetings with Playmates Toys in late 1986 and early 1987. However, while this already looked like its final version, the character remained unnamed for years. It wasn't until 1992 that Archie Adventures writer Steve Murphy found the missing element to the character. While reading Kevin Eastman's Zombie War, he found a curious misspelling of the word Armageddon. The strange result surprised him, and he thought to himself that Armaggon would be a cool name for a character, so he made a note of it. Seeing the potential in his early design, Peter asked Steve to include the character in the Archie Adventures, with the hopes of one day turning it into an action figure. After remembering the Armageddon misspelling, Steve decided to name him Armaggon. Unfortunately, the character never made it into the toy line, at least not in this first era. Armaggon debuted in 1993 in the pages of the Mutant Universe sourcebook as a character profile, and the following month in the pages of Mighty Mutanimals number 7. So, what was the deal with this character? He seemed to be a very intelligent being with a knack for technology, a personality trait that remained consistent across his appearances. However, other abilities, such as his multi-temporal mind, are not that consistent. He acknowledged meeting Man Ray in the future, something that came to be, but wouldn't this ability also allow him to succeed in his missions? And what about his claim of being the once and future king? And how exactly did time travel work in the Archie universe? The rules seemed pretty lax from my point of view, and I'm not sure there was any effort to define them at any point. My guess is that it was the multi-temporal thinking that made Armaggon so unpredictable and unreliable. I don't think his brain was prepared to function in that manner, and as a result, he was never able to fully use it to his advantage. In fact, I think it fueled his ego even further, ensuring his ultimate failure over and over again. What do you think of this version of Armaggon? Do you believe his claims about being a highly evolved shark were true? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. See you in the sewers.